Hi campers, Jeff here. This time I want to talk about 10 ways to avoid blisters. Now, I've had plenty, so I have experience in how to get them and then how I fixed it. And this is all about maybe choices in equipment and then things you can do on the trail to help avoid blisters on a trek like the PCT. So my first idea is to measure your feet and measure your shoes. So the first thing you do is just take your shoe off, stand up on a piece of white paper and trace your foot with your weight on the foot. That's only going to get wider when you hike, but now you have some idea. You can measure the width and length, and then when you have an insole from a shoe, you can just lay that right on there, see if it's big enough. So once you have those measurements of your insole, you can have some idea of whether your foot is bigger than the insole or not. If insole fits, the shoe will fit. Then you can measure the outside of the shoe. It'll probably be about like 3/4 of an inch wider and maybe 1.5 inches longer than your insole. And you can compare the shoes that you have that fit to shoes that are in the store and see if they're going to work or not before you even try them on. Save some time when you're shopping. Okay, number 2 hint is invest in insoles. I think most trail runners know this. The original insole that comes with your shoe is probably pretty thin and will wear out before the shoe does. An insert from, say, Walmart that costs $10 will wear out pretty quickly too. So you might expect to spend $40 or $50 on a brand like Run Pro. These are thin, light, and can last through maybe 2 pairs of shoes. They can have arch support too. You get a lot more choices in arch support when you use insoles. So I recommend those. They're the most important part of the shoe because that's where your foot makes contact. When I first started hiking, a lot of people said, hey, take these thick socks. They're going to really cushion your feet and make them cozy and comfy. It turns out, though, that you're better off with darn tough socks for most of your hiking in the spring and summer, because the thick socks just make your feet too hot, and as a result, you're more likely to get blisters. I mean, by all means, take these with you for sleeping in. Wear them when it's really cold and wet. You're fording icy streams or in your snow, but the rest of the time, don't wear them on your feet. Okay, number 4 is get your gaiters on. These Dirty Girl gaiters only weigh 31 grams, a little over an ounce, and they keep out most of the debris from your shoes and your socks. They're really worth it. You stop less to get the sand out. You don't get the burrs in your socks. They're really worth it. Okay, next I suggest that you clean out your shoes and socks really thoroughly when you stop and there's sand in them. Now, much of California, Southern California, is like a beach. You're walking on sand a lot, and then when you get into Northern California and Oregon, you encounter a lot of volcanic soils that are even finer and get into things even more. So, when you dump out the sand, it's really good to also pull out the insole, make sure it's cleaned off, pull your sock off, turn it inside out, check between your toes, because the minute you put everything back together, if you've missed a step, the sand might just move around and get in a place where it causes you a blister. So my next suggestion is to watch out for wear in both your shoes and your insoles. If your insole starts to have the fabric wear off, watch out, because this little bit of wear, the fabric flap, can cause a blister on the bottom of your feet, and that's one of the last places you want it. Then the shoes, the structure has to hold up. If you see the side of the shoe wearing down and somebody follows you and they say, hey, your shoe is turning every step you take, that's pronation. It means that the shoe structure is gone and it's time to get new shoes. If you wait too long, you'll get blisters from that too. As the shoe rotates, it rubs on your foot more. And that's not so good. So get new shoes when the old ones wear out. So number 7 is protect your hot spots on your feet before they get hot. For instance, with me, it's the little toes, so I wrap tape around them before I even start. And instead of getting a blister the first day, I can maybe go hundreds of miles before I have any problems. Okay, number 8, blister treatments may backfire on you. Thick products like blister ampules, these are little blister pads with silicone in them, or moleskins, can be so thick that they force your foot up against the far side of the shoe, opposite side from the blister, and cause a new blister to form on that side within a matter of hours. So you want to use thinner products over a blister. Tape, sports tape, duct tape. Okay, number 9, I would say that your foot strike matters, how your feet contact the ground. If you have a lot of blisters, you might find yourself walking rather gingerly. You're going to shorten your stride, make sure your foot falls flat on the ground in between rocks instead of on them. The fact that you're hiking over uneven terrain a lot and your feet are tilted sideways on a side slope of a trail or are going every which direction on rocks means that your foot is slipping around inside the shoe. And over a period of 30,000 steps in a day, if you have that same sliding motion a few hundred times, that might be enough to rub in a hot spot. So if you think you're prone to blisters on a particular stretch of trail that's extra uneven, then pay more attention to shorter stride, keeping your foot flat when it hits the ground, and you're less likely to have a blister as a result. Then number 10, this one's a little hard to explain, but somehow the last few miles of the day I tend to get more blisters. Maybe it's that I've hurried up more, I'm going into camp, I'm getting pizza, I'm less likely to stop and take care of my feet. So those last couple miles of the day, that's a time when hot spots and blisters, in my experience, are more likely. That's a time to maybe tell yourself to slow down a little and pay attention to your feet. So that's 10 tips. I hope it helps somebody somewhere who doesn't know all this already.